Hi, welcome to our intro video to our prenatal class here at MoveStudio. My name is Sue Dato. I'll be your instructor. Today we'll go over some of the poses that we do in prenatal yoga that'll be a little bit different than you might see in a traditional yoga class here at our studio or any other studio. So it'll be slower paced. We're going to move with your body, you work with props to bring the flora up to you as your growing belly changes and the baby grows. We're going to have to make adjustments throughout those 9 months. This is safe and effective for all 3 trimesters in that you're feeling well enough to come. Obviously, I know sometimes the first trimester can be a little hard. So we have all the props that you need here. If you want to just show up, we have mats, we have blankets, lots of blankets and bolsters, and our blocks. This is a strap that we have in our studio, and then the bolster I'm seated on. So always feel free to come if you're rushing out of the house and you make it here. Just know that we got you. We have everything here for you and even extra. So we also have, we do keep our classes kind of small, so all of my attention can go on a small number of people, and I can help you make adjustments throughout your pregnancy depending on what you're dealing with. So we'll start today on a bolster, and that way it's going to lift up our seat a little bit, allowing for a little bit more blood flow through the hips so that our feet don't fall asleep or just feel tingly. And that is one thing I'll say: we don't want anything throughout class to pinch or pull in a way that is making the joint feel uncomfortable or ache, and we don't want anything to have pins and needles, right? That's obviously an indication from your body that there's not circulation to that space, so we want to make sure we're listening. That's building your mind-body connection, right? So your body speaks to you with a signal like that, and you obviously respond. Now, I know those are kind of extreme examples like your pins and needles, but even if your ankle is on the mat but the bone is pushing and it just feels bad, move. It's okay to move, right? So those things that maybe you think you're supposed to push through, you're not supposed to, especially when you're growing a human. So while we'll start seated nice and tall, we'll do some gentle neck stretches and then maybe move those wrists and ankles around so that we can get the parts of the body that are kind of feeling tight, maybe swollen, and move them around a little bit. So beginning nice and tall, I usually start with just some deep breaths. So you can have your hands resting on your knees or thighs. You'll close the eyes down so that you can get rid of any of that input from vision and go inward. When you focus on your breath, we help our bodies move from that fight or flight state into a rest and digest. And sometimes we don't even realize it coming from outside in the car, traffic, whatever. We want to take that time to come here. And I know sometimes we are busybodies and I can't stop, my mind doesn't stop. Well, here we are going to slow our bodies down, slow our breath down, and help our bodies and minds move into that rest and digest state. And that is just with breath. So you close your eyes, we'll take a nice deep inhale. And then as you're exhaling, you stay nice and tall in the spine, think energy out of the crown, drawing the belly button in just a hair like you're giving the baby a hug. And then inhale. We'll feel the ribs, front, back, right, and left, kind of expand in all directions, right? Front, back, right, and left, even down a little. And of course, your belly is going to feel like it's coming out quite a bit. As you exhale, we kind of naturally exhale for 3 or 4 seconds, and then we draw in just a little, give the baby a hug, and it pushes more air out. And then inhale. And exhaling. We're sitting as tall as we can so that you can allow your shoulders to relax, but it's going to feel as if when you inhale, it's going to feel like everything is blowing up with air, because it is, so you're going to feel a little bit like a balloon. As you exhale, you want to think energy out of the crown. Gravity takes care of the down. You're thinking of the up to keep that spine long. So there's not as much up and down in the breath, but more out and in. Right? And then here, while we keep that breath moving through your body, we'll start just gentle neck rolls as you drop your head towards the right. You're going to stop before you feel a whole lot of discomfort. Stop when you feel resistance, and then allow the head to fall forward, keeping the chest high. The chin doesn't have to touch the chest at all, but it just drops towards it. As we go to the left, then we use our next breath to come up. And notice how slow, right? I want to go slow so we don't move through any of those spots that feel like they might be getting kinked up. Going forward very slowly is important so that we don't overstretch the upper back up into the neck and skull, right, where the neck muscles attach right at the base of the skull. So we'll do one more right and left. Good. And then up, and then last one, just allowing gravity to start. Notice when you feel your body resist, and that's where you stop. I'm not trying to feel a super duper stretch in my neck. It's the movement that's going to create the mobility, and then we can right the head, right? And then you'll notice that, like I said before, there's differences in our prenatal yoga class. Like, we're not going to ever lay on our belly. Even if you're in your first few weeks of pregnancy, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay off the belly. We're going to do only open twists, so nothing trying to crank a big twist. So that means usually just twisting from the ribs up. And then some people might be able to grab the knee, but usually by the mid-pregnancy, you're holding on to the same knee with the same hand and opening there. So very gentle twists from ribs up. And then past 20 weeks, we won't lie on our back anymore. We'll build a little recliner or with our bolster and our blocks, and I'll teach everybody how to do that. And then, during pregnancy, we're going to feel a little bit of those common ailments like lower back discomfort and tightness. Hopefully you don't feel this, but sciatica is kind of calm, or you get that shooting pain down the leg. Swollen wrists, swollen ankles and feet. So as long as we keep your blood moving, and we should be able to help you through some of those discomforts, right? So I'm going to start, before our side stretches, we'll do a little bit of cat and cow seated. So that means the cat and cow back, if you're familiar with it, is just an arch, or if you're not familiar, arch and a gentle rounding of the spine. I'll show the side view. So the legs can either be in an easy crisscross pattern or a butterfly. And we'll round back off of the sit bones. I'm not trying to squash baby, so I'm just going to lean back a little bit, keep my focus maybe over the toes, and then come upright. And then I'll lift my heart. I'm not going to really overarch in the lower back. And then you lift your gaze, and the shoulders just fall open, and then forward. You add your breath. As you exhale, we round back. And even though I'm rounding, I don't want to feel like I'm crushing. I want to think long and tall, energy out of the head, giving the baby a hug with those abdominals. And then as you sit up tall, we can inhale as we lift the heart, and the focus draws upward. We'll do one more, rounding the spine back, exhaling here, and then inhaling as we look up, as we make space, and then we can bring the focus forward and just stay upright. Beautiful. Now the legs can stay in this butterfly, or you just switch which leg is in front. We'll reach our arms up for a nice inhale, and notice the length you get in the waist, and then exhale, the hands can turn down and the shoulders relax away from the ears. We'll do an inhale up, find that length again, exhale down. One more. Inhale through the nose. We'll exhale, just a gentle exhale through the mouth, like a sighing, releasing breath. Now here I'm going to keep my right fingertips down, and then reach the left arm up. We inhale, and then you can find the hands on the floor. You might even be able to place the palm down. There's blocks there if we need them. And then we reach over to open up that left side. You can let the head hang. Right? If your neck is feeling a little sore, you might even look down towards the floor. One more breath there. And then we want to make sure we're not feeling any pinching feelings in the lower right back. So even though I'm reaching over towards the right, I don't want to compress that area. So that means that you might have a very shallow lean, and that's okay. We don't have to go really deep. Now, as we inhale, we'll come up. That bottom arm helps us come up. The fingers find the floor, and we'll do that to the other side, inhaling the arm up, and then find the floor with the left hand. Exhale over again. You can let the head hang or look down. Usually take about 3 deep breaths is usually about 30 seconds. Another indicator of whether or not it's too deep or too uncomfortable is, can we breathe deep? That's like a sounding board. So if we can't get that deep breath, then it usually means we need to back out of our pose a little bit. And then we'll slowly come up. And then usually the shoulders are a little tight from that, so we're going to roll the shoulders back 3 times. So we lift a little, let them come back and down, keeping your breath nice and smooth. And we go slow again, because if we go too fast, we're going to, snap the connective tissue over the joints. We don't want to do that. So we'll do a few forward. So we go back, up, forward, and down. And it's a small move. I reach the shoulders back, up a little, forward, and down. We don't want too much of a lift in those shoulders. We don't want to promote tension in the shoulders. So once they come down, we can usually relax. Beautiful. Nice. And then we'll bring the legs into this nice butterfly, making sure that your feet are on the mat. And if they're not, if your butterfly is a little bit wider, you can always bring your blanket underneath your feet so that those joints feel like the bones feel like they're supported. We'll do a gentle twist from ribs up. We'll inhale, find that length. And then as you exhale, we're going to bring the left hand to the knee, and then the right hand might be on the floor or bolster behind you. So just ribs up, belly button and hips face forward. And then you just want to breathe here. You want to feel like your ribs can still expand outward. I always tell my ladies, you want to feel like your bra strap is expanding out right and left. Obviously, belly breath into that baby belly. Exhaling, we draw in, giving the belly a little hug. And then even though you're just twisting from the ribs, you might take your focus towards the right wall. Any amount. You just stop when you feel that resistance rather than a pull or a big stretch. Good. And then on our next inhale, we're going to reach the arms up, returning, facing forward. And then exhale again, right hand to right knee, and the left hand might be on the floor or the bolster. We're not trying to crank a twist. We just stop where our body feels it's going to stop. That's part of keeping that mind-body connection. We're going to stop when we feel just a little resistance, not a full-on pull or stretch in those muscles. One more breath there. Maybe you're looking towards the left or maybe the left shoulder. Good. And then we'll slowly unwind, bringing our focus forward and arms up over the head again. And then here we'll bring the arms, turn the palms down, and we'll get ready for a gentle butterfly stretch forward. So we'll use our blocks. And usually we'll have the blocks on our feet, especially if you're in 2nd or 3rd trimester, to make space for baby, and we could round forward. My elbows rest on my thighs, and then we have enough space. I'll show from the side view. So if you're here and the blocks are on your feet, they're usually angled towards us already, and then we can round forward. We can do this without the bolster as well. Some women appreciate that stretch in the hips. This will help open in the lower back area. So we're going to take some deep breaths here, and you're going to envision that space opening up with breath and air pressure. And then as you exhale, you just send the signal to relax and release muscles. Let go of any extra tension, inhaling and exhale. Remember, just a relaxing exhale, and then you add just a little bit more with the abdominal muscles. Give the baby a hug. One more. Inhale. One more exhale. All right, and then you use your hands on the blocks to help you come up. And then the head will be the last thing to come up. And then know that sometimes if you're only in your 1st or 2nd trimester, and depending on how you're holding baby, sometimes I have moms coming all the way over and they really love that stretch. When we stretch into those hips, we're going to help release that tension there, and that a lot of times that helps, again, it helps relieve that stress in the lower back. Really, really helpful. So let's go ahead and come off of the bolster, and I'll have us come to our hands and knees. You just move the bolster off to the side. We're going to come onto the blanket so that our knees are always padded. I have blocks nearby, so they're there if we need them. My hands are right under my shoulders and my knees will be right under my hips. And that way I feel like, this is called table, I feel like a tabletop, right? So nice flat back just to start. And we're gonna take one breath here. I'll come around, you'll see in class, and I wanna make sure your back is flat in this table rather than too arched. Because that belly, you know, with the baby growing is gonna be pulled down to the floor, really. So we wanna fight that just a little bit. As you inhale, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you can. And then as we exhale, gentle pressure in your hands into the floor. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Try 3 more counts, 2, 1. Let's try one more like that. We'll inhale, 2, 3, 4, maybe to 5. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, drawing in, 3, give the baby a hug, all the way to 1. Good, and then we'll do cats and cows here. So now we can allow the belly to fall to the floor and lift the gaze and your tailbone. And that should make some more space for air as we inhale. And then as you exhale, you can push into the floor gently, round the spine to the ceiling, and drop the head and tail. Not so much that we squish the baby, but just enough to round the back. And then we cycle through a few more of those. Inhaling, look forward. And then exhale. We want to make sure we're not pinching in the lower back as we arch into that cow back. So you might do less than normal than you're used to if you do this move in other classes. We'll do this last one, and then we'll come to just a flat back. As we push into the floor, we'll feel those muscles helping us and finding just a nice straight spine. Now here we can do a few hip shifts to the right and left. So as my hips fall over to the left, my head kind of comes to the right, and you can find a nice hip stretch here, keeping the breath nice and smooth and deep, and kind of move on your own. I'll guide you through it, but this way we can sometimes feel a little bit of a pleasant stretch into the hip and even into the back and side. Good, so a few of these. Beautiful, good. And then on our hands and knees, we'll walk the knees open a little bit. And then here we can bring our block underneath our forehead and we'll find our child's pose. The knees and the feet will open more than you might remember from a traditional yoga class. So here you can bring the block up depending on what trimester you're in. You might need to bring it up higher, and some moms might be fine lower. Right? And then for this part of class, we'll stay with just the head on the block for a few breaths. And again, opening up that back body as you inhale and exhale, sending the signal, just saying relax body. This is where you can guide your muscles, guide the body to let go of any extra tension. Good. And then we'll come back up onto hands and knees. That one is excellent. I always recommend my moms take that one home so that you can do that at home. It's going to help stretch and move that air pressure to your back. All right, so we're on our hands and knees. So here we're in that nice tabletop. Knees are right underneath the hips now. Usually from child's pose, we got to move them back in. Right, so now I'm going to have you walk your right fingertips out, but we're going to keep the fingers down so that they're little spider fingers or even on the knuckles. And then the left toes the leg will lengthen out and the left toes will curl under. You push into the left hand and you're going to stay here and just keep the back nice and long as you inhale and exhale. And then sometimes I'll have my moms feeling a little strong in that second trimester. As we inhale, you might just lift the right arm, but notice it's not going to come up as high or higher than my shoulder. It might even be below it. And then we exhale down. If you're feeling really strong, you keep those abs hugging baby. You might inhale and float the left foot, but it just is still going to stay low, and we want it to stay out of the lower back. So if you're feeling it there, you just keep the foot down. But as we exhale, we bring that foot down anyway. And then we bring everything back underneath us, and we're going to shift right to left in the hips. So that way we can get any tension that might have creeped into the back, we can stretch it out, because we want to do that on the other side. So finding your way back to hands and knees, tabletop. Then we're going to bring the left fingertips out. So you can have the fingers up on spider fingers, I call that, or just the knuckles. and then the right leg comes out, the toes are curled under. I push a little extra into my right hand, and then back. Think lower back is lengthening, so the abdominals are supporting baby as we exhale. Now as we inhale, maybe you're going to float the right arm up. The palm can turn in. It doesn't have to go very high. Exhale, bring it down. Now the hand stays there, either on the fingertips or the knuckles. Maybe as you inhale, lift the right foot, keeping that foot flex and the toes are pointing down to the floor. And then exhale. And again, you don't have to do any of that. You might just stay in this connected to the floor, and then bringing everything back in. And then this time, we'll walk the forearms down. I kind of turn my hands in. I'm going to bring my forehead down. So if you love, love, love child's pose, I don't mind if you go into that. But this is a nice lengthening pose for your back. Kind of relax and let everything go for a few breaths. And it's not as deep and compressed in the knees. So another option. And then here, you might know, we're going to all come back up to our table. You might know and be familiar with downward facing dog. In prenatal, right, we might do some of that, but really I'm going to have you guys walk your hands forward and then just keep your knees down as we shift a little bit over. So it's like a knee plank. Notice my hips are not going to come down very far. I'm actually going to keep them up pretty high, maybe even as high as my shoulders, so that I can keep my abdominals working. And then I'm going to sit back into, leave my hands there, sit back into just a gentle child's, but not all the way down, right? Because we're going to come right back to where we were as we inhale. So it's a little bit of abdominal work, a little bit of core work as we exhale back into our child's. This is where you're going to lengthen that spine. One more inhale. Good. So your shoulders and chest are working a little as we exhale. We come back. So that's our pregnancy flow rather than a big down dog. Now, as we come up, we can walk the hands in, curl the toes under, and then maybe your down dog might be here with knees a little soft, heels might be up, and then we can always put a blanket under those heels. If you are able to straighten those knees, that's fine. What we don't want to do is come right up into that down dog you might see in class. So I'm still a little bit on my chest and into the shoulders as well. My focus is down. So a little different than our traditional down dog, which you might see here. It's just a little too much on those shoulders. And then we only hold for a few breaths, because if we're feeling too much pressure in the head and then we come up right away, you're just going to feel dizzy. So it's not really ideal. So beautiful. Now here, we want to do a little bit of that calf stretch. So we're already on our hands and knees. You're going to take your right foot back, and we just reach that heel to the wall behind us. I walk my hands forward, and then I can push into my hands a hair. This is also going to work the shoulders, and then stretch into that back calf. A few breaths here. Nice. One more breath as you're reaching that back heel. We're not trying to over straighten that knee. We just want to feel a gentle stretch in that calf, so we're not getting any of those Charlie horses. As we release, we can bring it back and then take a break. And then before we do the other side, we can curl the toes under and just do a gentle stretch here just for the feet. So you might be, some of us feel a stretch here, so I'm coming back quite a bit, but you might feel a little bit of a stretch, toes curled under. And you can just stay here for a few moments. But again, we work with our body weight. So if I have some moms that are here and they feel plenty of a stretch in the foot. Now that'll set us up for this next side. We're going to come back out, knees wide, hands under shoulders. We're going to straighten the left leg and then walk the hands forward so you can push into the left ankle. Feel it reaching to the wall behind you. Gentle pressure into those hands. And then deep breath. I'll walk around, and I'm going to make sure that I can come around, see that your back is nice and long and not being pulled down by the baby weight. Sometimes it's just, we remember, how we feel when we're standing, and that's the posture we go into. So this will feel very different from week to week as your body changes. And that's why here, at MoveStudio, we're going to keep the class sizes small so that I can give you guys that personal attention as we're doing classes. From week to week, you're going to feel so different. And then as we bring that leg back in, we're going to find our way back to our seat and come down. So we'll move on to a few stretches for our hip flexors and then some reclined on our bolster. So of course in our prenatal yoga we're going to do our lunges and warriors, things like that, but we're always going to be able to have props around to help us and probably do a little bit less than you're used to, right? So, our warrior two, if you know, that's just a big lunge, might not be as long or wide on the mat than we're used to. That is okay. So keeping that, I was just giving us a little break off of those knees. We're going to come up again, and then we can bring the right leg forward, right? And the hands will be on blocks now, bringing the floor to you, knowing that you can bring them up any amount. I'm going to scoot my toes forward, and then we're going to shift forward and then lift the heart, and then take a few breaths here, and you should start to feel some stretching in front of that left hip while you're lifting the heart, right? And then this is a nice, almost like a crescent moon stretch from the side, knowing that, you know, we have to move as your baby grows, move that leg off to the right just a little bit. You always have these blocks to help us. Some moms will come right up here if they're feeling strong, and you might feel a nice stretch in front of that left hip here. And then you have your hands on your leg so that they can help balance. But deep breaths here. And then right away we'll stretch in into the back of that right leg. So we'll grab our blocks. You can straighten that leg out, scooting the toes, and then either use the blocks to come forward, or sometimes we can just hold on to the thigh. Either way, we want to find that stretch behind the leg. I'll flex the foot if we can, right? It doesn't have to be as flexed as mine is, but you want to be pulling the energy of the toes back. And then take some deep breaths there. You keep your focus kind of at the edge of the mat so the back is nice and long. It shouldn't feel like this is going into the back, right? During pregnancy, your body's already, you know, making hormones like relaxin and elastin to loosen up your joints for birth, so, and for pregnancy. So we want to make sure that if you are flexible, you're not overdoing it. So you might have to soften your knee. If you aren't as flexible, this is going to help, right? So that we can maybe improve your flexibility throughout your pregnancy. Now we'll slowly exit this by walking forward. We'll bend that knee, and then you help yourself, right? I'm going to turn these blocks into position so that I can get my foot closer. I help it in with my own hand, and then come back down to hands and knees. And you do that on the other side. So I use my blocks. Once I have my right hand on the block, I can help that left foot forward. And then I walk forward into a position where I feel some kind of a stretch here. And then hands can either be on this lower setting. We might bring them up a little. I'm going to demonstrate the up highest, and then move that left foot over as much as you need for the room for baby. And then we do want to lift the heart. That doesn't mean we're going to throw the head back. We'll still kind of look forward so we feel the heart opening. And then you can play with maybe coming up a little bit if you want. This is technically a balance, and then you're going to really feel that stretch there. Either way, different moms feel a benefit in those two different poses. But each one, that lunge should stretch in front of that right hip. Now, as we start to straighten that out, we're going to straighten out the front leg. We'll walk the blocks in, and then we can come up, and then my leg kind of wandered off to the left there, so I'm going to bring it more in line with my hips. Now you might have your hands on your thigh, and then come forward just a little, or on the blocks, or both. And then we take some breaths there. And again, I keep my focus low, just a little bit in front of my mat, and I'll walk around and be able to do that and help you, depending on where you're stretching. Some of my moms just stay up here, but it really depends on how tight it is behind your leg. And then we'll slowly bend that knee, come forward, get that block down. I'm going to turn it on its lowest level so it's secure, and then I'm going to help my leg back. And that way, I have that assistant there. Now here, I'll come to standing. So I'm going to have you bring your right foot forward, and then your left foot is curled under. If you can see, I have my hand on the floor block, and then hand on the knee. So I have 4 points of contact. I push into all of them, and then I come up as I need, right? So we don't have to feel like we're unsecure. I want you guys, or insecure, I want you to feel like you can stand up strong. Now, we'll just do a few standing poses, and I'll show the warriors just so you guys have an idea of what we'll go through, right? I'm going to have let's do the right leg forward, left leg back, and notice how high it is, right? We want it to be pretty high, where in a traditional yoga class, it might be, or in social media, you're going to see people in these huge lunges. Not for prenatal. So we're going to stay pretty high, and we're going to think about hands on the hips to start, right? So that left heel reaches down, the toes turn down a little bit, and we stand up nice and tall. And this is our balance, right? We're just trying to breathe deep. As you breathe here, you're going to feel that belly expand, and that is going to pull all the way here. So you might need to bring it in a little, and that is fine. Notice how this is barely bent at all on my right side, and that is fine. Right? And then after that, we'll move into our warrior two. So just almost the same thing. My right toes are still going to face the right wall, but my left toes turn out so that they're pointing forward. And I'll be able to help you guys in class. But once we're here, right, again, it's pretty high, whereas on social media, you're going to see, or even on our page, you might see people in these big warriors. These, during pregnancy, way more weight here, and we know those relaxin and elastin is loosening the joints. We don't want to put a bunch of weight onto our split legs. So we're going to stand up tall. We're going to feel, how does this feel as I bend my knee, and then straighten. Bending. Does it feel all right? Good. And straighten. We want to make sure pubic symphysis around the pubic bone doesn't curve, so we want to make sure the legs feel strong. And then maybe we'll stay on this last one, right? So we can bend the knee. I'll keep that knee right over the heel, and then the arms can float up. And then you can look forward over that right hand. And it should feel pretty secure as you breathe here. But sometimes that right thigh is going to get so tired and start to burn. Just straighten your leg, right? And I'll guide us through that. One more breath here. Good. And then as we straighten the leg, we'll bring our hands to our hip again and move into just what you might have seen, a triangle. I'll bring our blocks close by. But we'll tilt the hip towards the left and then drop the hand down to your thigh and then lean over the leg any amount, right? So the legs are in a triangle and the upper body is supported. Now, some of you might be able to reach to the shin. We just want to stay off the knee. We don't want to put pressure on the knee. And this knee can soften a little. We'll have our blocks nearby. Some of our moms might reach the arm up, but you can stay up pretty high and just hang out here. You're still going to feel a nice stretch while you gain some of that strength in your legs. And then on this next inhale, we can slowly come up. So we'll all bend that front knee, the right knee, push into the arm and the leg and come up. So that way you're helping yourself up. And then we'll heel toe the foot in, and then you'll find a place where you get the legs underneath you. Now we'll do that on the other side, just bringing the left foot forward, the right toes in warrior one. They are almost pointing forward. They're just kind of tilting out towards the right corner of the mat. And I'll watch that in class. Hands on the hips for today, right? We're just going to think our hips are facing forward as much as they can as that back heel reaches down. Another great place to stretch those calf muscles, right? And then breathing deep here. Maybe the hands can come to the heart. Nice, and then we'll slowly straighten the leg, but notice again how shallow, we're not going into a big deep bend. And then we're going to turn the toes out on the right foot so that they face forward, and the left foot, the toes face the wall you're looking at. And then for our warrior two, you're just gently bending the knee and lengthening just to start. So you're checking in. Does this feel okay in my hips this week, right? You're going to have more weight every week. You want to make sure that you feel secure. Good. This next one, we can stay there. So we'll come down, right? We'll stop when that knee is right over the ankle, and then we can float the arms up and look over the left hand towards the wall and just breathe deep. And of course, right, the left thigh starts to feel like it's burning too much. You can always straighten your legs. But I do want you to build up some of that thigh strength, right? We want to get ready for the birth, which is a lot of endurance. So we want to work through it a little. I always say if we start to feel the burn, maybe try one more breath and then come up. So we'll slowly straighten that leg, we'll bring the arms down, and then here with the hands on the hips, we're ready to go into our triangle. So you start to tilt the right hip away, left hand can come on to the leg, and that might be where you stop, right? Maybe you can hold on below the knee, reach that arm up, and know that the block is always there. I'll always make sure they're close by. And then we can either have the hand on the block or the shin. And again, I have some moms that are just hanging out here. And I was showing that I was looking down, and then if you're feeling super strong, you might have a week where you try taking your focus up, which is more of the balance challenge for triangle, but you don't have to, right? So now to come out of this, we'll all bend the knee, bring the hand onto the thigh, and then push into both of those limbs, and that'll help us come up. So we'll heel toe in, and then we'll get ready to come down to the floor. So we're gonna come down into a chair, another little squat, right? So as we come into our chair, I'm gonna walk around and make sure you're looking forward, maybe at the end of your mat, and that your back is nice and long. And I only say that because if, again, you're seeing social media, you're gonna see people doing chair like this. And that's for way later when you're not pregnant. So when here, you wanna think your back is nice and long, you're supporting baby with your abdominal muscles, and the hands are at your heart. And then this should work into those thighs. Feet are hip distance apart so that we have that support under baby. Maybe if you're feeling strong, you can drop the seat down a hair, but you don't have to. It doesn't matter so much how low you go, but that we start to work on the stamina and endurance of those thigh muscles. And then we finally get to inhale. We're gonna come up out of it, and then take the feet really wide and exhale forward. We'll bend the knees, the block is there, but you can always use your hands. And then here, you can either round forward with one hand on the block, or I've had, if we need a little more support, placing the lowest block down and then placing the long block on top of it. But I have some moms that can touch the floor, so this is fine, where you just let the head hang, even if the knees are bent, as long as it doesn't feel like we're squishing baby. Nice deep breaths here, really trying to allow the head to hang from the neck. Relax and stretch the spine. Now, to come out of this, we'll all bend the knees and use the blocks to come up a little. And then we're gonna come down the way we went up. So I'm gonna move one foot back, come down, get the knee down, and then I can usually get hands down into that table. Then we come down all the way to your seat. And now we can do a few stretches here for our, I wanna do one for digestion. So we're gonna open the legs up any amount, right? So you can have the guys here, as long as your legs are on the mat, then your lower leg might be off a little bit. You bring your hands behind you and you lift the heart. And again, I don't wanna throw the head back, so you're gonna look maybe at the top of the wall that you're looking at. And inhale, open the heart. Exhale, kind of relax, but you can still lean on your hands, right? So inhaling, we should be feeling a gentle inner thigh stretch. You can always close the legs. If it's too much, close them a little bit. But here we're inhaling, and we are realistically just trying to make space in our digestive system, because that is the main issue, right? We get the gastric reflux, we get heartburn simply because there is no room for digestion. So this is going to help. And then if, the wrists or the shoulders don't like this, you start to come up after a few breaths. But you can take breaks, right? You might do a few of those and then come back up and then do another one and come back up so that you can help digestion, right? So then we'll bring the hands forward a little bit. You might feel a little bit deeper inner thigh stretch. And then my moms who love, love, love that forward fold might be on their forearms. But again, always make space for baby. I have just a few moms that are coming down like that, but we just want to do a little stretching in those inner thighs. So now we'll help the legs in, right? And then we have our strap. I'm going to bring the strap around the right foot and then extend it forward. And then I'm going to bring the left ankle up over, right? So here I can lean back if I need to, and then I get that stretch behind the thigh and possibly into that left hip, or you might come forward if you're more flexible, but of course, we keep this nice and tall for baby. If you're really flexible, you can still leave room for baby and allow the neck and shoulders to round over. But from the side view, you can stay there. From the side view, it'll, you know, it'll really feel like you have baby here and you're just kind of rounding over. But the weight of the head and just allowing the shoulders to round over can really affect the stretch in the hip. If we stretch into the right hip, then we're going to be able to take some of that pressure out of the lower back and relieve any discomfort. So as we slowly roll up, we can help this leg down. It's kind of like a tree pose where our foot is on the inside of the leg, and then we can use this guy to either stay upright or come forward a little bit more. So again, you're going to feel that hamstring, that's the back of the thigh. Hand can come down, or it might be on a block, but I've also had people just leaning back, whatever feels best. Good. Nice, and then we'll slowly release that. So usually you just allow slack and let that fall off. We could do that to the other side. I'm going to do this around the strap, around the ball of the foot below the big toe, and then lengthen, and then bring that ankle up and over. Sit up nice and tall. Remember, we might lean back a little bit if you're already feeling that stretch in the hip. Maybe come forward a little. And then the deepest version of this, making space for baby, just letting the head and shoulders round forward. While we're breathing here, you might feel like you're gently moving your lower back into a cat back, just a little bit. So I'll show the side view. So we can either stretch like this with a long back, or while you're here, you round a little, even though you're still keeping all this space for baby. And then you can open up around those joints where the spine meets the hips. And then as we slowly roll up, we can just allow slack in the strap. We'll bring the foot on the inside. And same thing, right now it's all into that back of the thigh. We might sit up tall, or you might come forward again and then rounding over. So some of us might not even need the strap, but it's there if we need it. I'm going to face forward. So this is how this one will look. And we breathe again, maybe gently moving the back into a gentle, rounded back. Good, and then slowly rolling up from there, letting the strap go. And then here we'll set up for our recliner using our bolster and our blocks and the blanket. So I'll set this guy up. In class, I'll come around and help you guys. The bolsters are a little heavy. And then we'll set them up so they don't feel like they're going to rock. We'll bring the blanket right to our base. So we'll have some padding under our sit bones and our tailbone. And then just make sure your strap is close by. We walk our bottom right next to it, and then when we lean back, I do have to tilt my tailbone forward a little and come back. And I'll help you guys do that in class. So I want to get to the number 4 stretch here. I'm going to lengthen my left leg and then bend the right knee in. And I always help moms if they need it. You can bring that right ankle over the left knee. And then maybe bend this guy in, but really we just want to feel just that stretch into that right hip. So the more you bend it in, the deeper the stretch will be into that right hip. Strap is there if you need it, right? We can always use this strap to kind of bring this leg in, but we want the foot to stay down. And then if people still need deeper, I grab another block and I place it under that left foot so it elevates it. But usually this is pretty good. We're going to breathe deep anytime. Remember, we're exhaling just a little longer than the inhale, and then we remain in that rest and digest state of being. Just super helpful for moms. And then also 5 deep breaths before bed like this can set you up for a great night of sleep, right? If you've had a lot of events happen throughout the day, you might have to do a little more, but really 5 deep breaths can really help set you up to move into that nice relaxed state. Now as we relax the left leg, I'm going to usually scoot the toes out. A lot of us can just kind of help that leg off without a lot of effort. Same thing on the left side. I'm going to help the leg up. Again, you can make sure the ankle is over the knee and then either move the foot in or out. Maybe use the strap around the right leg, even though that foot is going to stay down, just to keep it there. And then we'll breathe deep here, ideally thinking that that left hip Just getting that stretch there. Good. Just one more breath. Nice. Now, as we relax, we're going to unhook the strap if you're using it, or the block, and then we'll move the foot down. Now, usually about this point, our back is overarching, so while you're here, you can have your hands on the mat, and we'll curl the tailbone. Like if this is your bottom, you're going to curl the tailbone upward without even lifting it. Kind of scoots you down the bolster a little. But then we'll walk the feet out about as wide as your mat and just allow the knees to fall together. We're going to take 3 arm circles. Just reach the arms up overhead. And then allow gravity to take over as the arms move off to the side, down by your hips, all the way in. And then do 2 more. So nice and slow, arms about as wide as your shoulders. Your back should feel supported. Can some moms even close their eyes here so that you can go inward and feel that opening up in front of the chest and shoulders, where the upper body curve and that upper spine is starting to round to counter the lower back curve, which is curving because of the baby weight. So this is a normal occurrence, but this should feel nice, like a nice opening. And then we just let the arms fall to the side. We have eye pillows that you'll place over your face, and we usually do a good 5-minute Shavasana at least, where you just get to relax. Your Shavasana is just time for you to take, where you're allowed to do nothing and be still or fidget. You can allow yourself to fall asleep. I'll bring you back with I have chimes and a singing bowl. But this is your time to truly let your mind and body rest. And then some moms take this time to give belly a hug and connect with baby. And then when we're done, we'll slowly flutter our eyes open. We'll take the mask, the pillow off. We might wiggle our fingers and toes, just like this is like a traditional yoga class where we slowly do small movements in the small joints to bring our awareness back. And then think about which side is your dominant side, right or left, and we'll roll towards that side, catching ourselves with our forearms. So I'll demonstrate by leaning towards my left, my forearm comes down, and then I can find my way to my seat without engaging my abs too much. Right? And then find your way seated up nice and tall. We'll finish with one last breath where we inhale, arms up overhead, exhale your hands to your heart. Always bringing compassion to your heart and trying to center your mind, body, spirit, and soul. And the light in me honors the light in you. And then I hope to see you at our prenatal yoga class. You can go to MoveStudio.com for more information, or call us or text us. But I hope to see you here soon, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.